Thomas Reed had been dead for 2 weeks. But 3 days after his funeral, a letter arrived in the mail. The letter had been written by Thomas himself, and it was dated after his death. October 1956, Flagstaff, Arizona. I'd seen a lot of strange things during my years as a private investigator. Disappearances, fraud, murder, but I'd never seen anything quite like this. That morning, a woman named Margaret Reed walked into my office carrying a single envelope. Her husband, Thomas Reed, had died in a car accident along Route 66. The police had already closed the case. The funeral was over. Everyone had moved on. Everyone except Margaret. 3 days after Thomas was buried, a letter arrived at her home. The handwriting was unmistakably his. She'd seen it for years. The problem was simple. The letter had been mailed after he died. At the bottom of the page were 2 words: Mile 82. I started by looking into Thomas Reed's final weeks. On paper, he was ordinary. A traveling salesman, no criminal record, no known enemies, no obvious reason to fear for his life. But people who knew him told a different story. He'd been withdrawing cash from the bank, changing his travel routes, making phone calls he refused to explain. Several witnesses said he seemed nervous, like a man who believed someone was watching him. Back at my office, I reviewed maps, receipts, and travel records. One location appeared again and again: the Sunset Motel, a small roadside motel along Route 66. It was the last confirmed place Thomas Reed had been seen alive. The Sunset Motel looked like it had been forgotten by time. The neon signs still flickered. The paint was fading. And the desert seemed determined to swallow the place whole. The manager remembered Thomas immediately. According to him, Thomas arrived late at night. He looked exhausted, scared. He barely slept. Instead, he spent hours writing letters inside his room. Several letters, not just one. When the room was cleaned after the accident, most of those letters were gone. No one knew where they had gone, or who had taken them. As I left the motel, one thing became clear. Thomas Reed wasn't running from bad luck. He was running from someone. The crash site was located along a lonely stretch of Route 66. The official report claimed Thomas lost control of his vehicle, a blown tire, a tragic accident. Case closed. But the evidence told a different story. I found tire tracks from 2 vehicles, not one. There were also fragments of dark blue paint scattered along the shoulder. Signs of a collision. Signs of another driver. Thomas hadn't left the road by himself. Someone had forced him off it. Standing there in the desert wind, I began to understand what had happened. Thomas Reed had been chased, and someone had made sure he never reached his destination. The road marker stood alone beneath the fading evening sky. Mile 82, the location mentioned in the letter. There wasn't much left. An abandoned service station, a rusted mailbox, broken signs swaying in the wind. At first glance, the place seemed empty. Then I saw it, a symbol carved into a wooden beam. I'd seen that symbol before. Inside the black ledger, the same shape, the same mark, the same warning. As I searched the building, I discovered a loose floorboard. Beneath it was a hidden envelope, the final letter written by Thomas Reed, a letter that never reached the mail. I opened the envelope carefully. The handwriting matched every other letter. Thomas Reed had written it shortly before his death. The message was short, but it changed everything. It wasn't an accident. They operate through the roads. The ledger is real. I read the words several times. The desert had gone quiet. Even the wind seemed to stop. For months, I'd heard rumors about a hidden network. A network connected to forgotten towns, abandoned motels, and lonely highways. Now I had my first real piece of evidence. That night, I returned to Flagstaff. Back in my office, I placed Thomas's letter beside the black ledger. Then I opened one of its pages. There, written in faded ink, were 2 words: Mile 82. The name had been recorded long before Thomas Reed died. That's when I realized this case wasn't over. In fact, it was only beginning. Thomas Reed's case was officially closed. Unfortunately, the road he died on was leading somewhere else. And for the first time, I knew the Black Ledger wasn't just a rumor. It was real.